We flip the page right over to the New York Mets. And that is where I'll start us off with the top 5. These are guys that have made various appearances on this channel. If you've been following us on YouTube, we've made different videos, short form videos on some of these guys. And for top 5, it's Nolan McLean, Carson Benge, Jett Williams, Jonah Tong, and Brandon Sproat, who Jacob has made a video about before when we were nearing the deadline, kind of speculating what pieces could maybe be on the move or good prospects for that type of scenario. I'll start us off with McLean. One of the more interesting stories in all of minor league baseball. Two-way player at Oklahoma State who kept that versatility heading into pro ball. Everybody looks at Shohei Ohtani. He is a unicorn and asks, are we ever going to see somebody like a Babe Ruth or like a Shohei again? Nolan McLean was on a track to do that in the lower levels of minor league baseball, but then he struggled with whiff rate. The strikeout rate was above 30%. That's usually a death toll for someone's offensive output. Picked up pitching, and when I say picked up, I mean just more focused on it, and was dominant. Gets the call up to the big league club last year, 5-1 over 8 starts with a 2.06 earned run average through 48 innings, 57 Ks in that span. Walk rate wasn't bad. He went from being a knockoff Shohei Ohtani to, is this pitching thing going to work? He's putting all the chips in the middle on this attribute, to if Drake Baldwin and Cade Horton and Isaac Collins don't exist and Nolan McLean's sample size is a little larger, it's not outlandish to say he was in the Rookie of the Year conversation for the National League. That is how dynamic he was as a pitcher, not just as a rookie pitcher, as a pitcher in the latter stages of this season for a Mets team that was fighting for a playoff spot, ultimately came up short against the Reds. Carson Benge, outfielder, 2026 ETA, another Oklahoma State guy, another Cowboy. He topped out with an OPS near 1,000 in AA last year before seeing it fall with a batting average below the Mendoza line, over 90 ABs in AAA. Outside of AAA to the majors, this is where you really start to see it's either the high A to AA or AA to AAA fall off, right? Not fall off, but learning curve, where these guys all of a sudden, it doesn't look like a beach ball anymore. The ball's whizzing a little faster. It's guys who have big league aspirations and their actions are backing it up. I think Carson could be the future of New York's outfield. He has a very strong arm. It's tied for his best attribute along with the hit tool. Starts with an open stance, and he struggled in AAA. He was pulling or he was struggling to pull and lift the ball with the open stance. It's truly all about timing, and that is something he's kind of trying to hone in on. Then Jett Williams, great name. Shortstop, outfielder, second baseman. We've talked about it before. If you're a shortstop and you're not too developed in your pro baseball career, you could play almost any position outside of pitcher and catcher. And Williams plays shortstop at the moment. They'll throw him in the outfield once in a while. He'll scoot over to second. 5'7", so that might be showing what his future could be like in terms of maybe a second baseman or a shortstop. If he really has the speed, they try him in the outfield, but you don't want the ball to get past your guy. That's resulted, though, because he is so short, in a plethora of walks. It's a small zone. We're also seeing a strikeout rate that's been well above average, flirting with 30% at times. So not making a ton of contact, but think your little league leadoff hitter who, not to say he crouches down a ton, but it's tough for pitchers to locate. I also think it's really funny. I'm calling him short. I'm literally 5'8", but from a baseball perspective, he is a speed demon, so he fits that profile, makes up for the height with that. First name Jett is very, very fitting with that. 45 stolen bags in 121 games in 2023. Bit of a down year with lack of availability in 24. He nabbed 34 stolen bases in 25. Jonah Tong, Jacob, you've talked about him on this channel before. Great prospect. He was in a trade deadline video that Jacob made on this channel when we were forecasting certain teams who may be getting active during that time, trying to catapult up their respective wild card rankings. You look at his 5 starts, and inconsistency, I think, is the most fitting word. One of two things happened. He would go relatively deep into a ball game, 5, 6 innings, and strike guys out at a pretty high clip, or he'd get hit around so much that he was an early exit. 2 starts with at least 5 innings and 1 or less earned run given up. 2 starts of 2 innings or less with at least 5 earned runs given up. The guy was either shelled or he put up a quality start. Fastball velocity is in the low to mid 90s, so you know where this is going. He's got to rely on his pitch mix. And, he's got a cut slider, Vulcan grip changeup, which is really fun. That has a chance to be the real bread and butter in terms of deception. Is it going to be fastball? Is it going to have arm side ride with the changeup / sinker look with the Vulcan grip? He's able to miss bats. That's been his MO forever, but Now I think for him, it's about nibbling away at the zone. And Brandon Sproat, right-handed pitcher, ETA 2025, because he did have a little bit of time in the big leagues. Statistically and stylistically, very different from Jonah Tong. Doesn't rely on deception and doesn't really have a whole lot of, I need to work on finesse here. He's just power. It's all gas, no brakes, 95 to 98. The problem, not a ton of movement. So you brought this up with prospects before, Jacob. When you have a fastball that goes 98, that's all fine and dandy. If it's flat, guys are going to be able to locate it after a while and time it up. So the changeup is also Sproat's best weapon. A lot of pitching talent here. We'll get to strengths and weaknesses in a moment. I know I just went long-winded again, but some fun names, right? McLean. You've got Williams, who's kind of a Swiss Army knife for them. Pretty well-rounded top 5 for the Mets.
Yeah, and I think, again, talking about and keeping it with the pitching, I know Benge and Williams going to be, could be impactful as soon as next season, especially with the direction that this Mets team goes. And you look at David Stern, their president of baseball operations, with what he was able to do with the Milwaukee Brewers, where he had these young guys readily available. This past season for the Mets, they had these young pitchers readily available that they were able to call up, especially when the free agent signings really didn't go their way. I think something else to note, just saw today a report that the Mets are kind of hesitant on giving starting pitchers really longer term contracts, and these pitching prospects are a large reason why, with Sproat, McLean, and with Jonah Tong, with the trust, with the development that these guys had, the connection. You see the videos that they have after games where it's the three of them kind of coming up together, almost like, call up brothers, if you will, at the end of the season. I mean, that connection means something. And when you have these guys, the struggles that Tong had at the end of the year in the big leagues, I think that there is the potential. Again, I mentioned the Tim Lincecum comp. I think that's there. I think that's something he's got to work around, though. He doesn't necessarily have the velocity just yet that Lincecum had, so it's really about the mechanics. It's all about the movement and the manipulation of the zone. And Sproat, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Cory. With him is the movement. He has the velocity, he has the multiple pitches. It's all about movement, and he's a guy that, just like Painter, started out real hot, rose very quickly in the minor league system, and once you start to face off against those guys that are back and forth between AAA and the bigs, that are fighting for their professional lives in AAA there, and trying to get on that roster, that 40-man, you gotta mix it up a little bit more. So yeah, I'm very intrigued, and as you mentioned before, as a fan of the Philly, I mean, this Mets system, it's also deep with players down the list, and they've got different positional value, not just pitchers, but Williams, Benge. I mean, he's a guy that he called up next season and could be batting 6, 5, 7, 8 in that lineup behind Soto and Lindor, and making a difference.
That's another thing with the Mets, right? They've got their superstars in Lindor and Soto. Depth, the bottom end of the lineup, they're still looking to find a consistent way to round that out with competent bats. That could be a Jett Williams. That could be a Benge, depending on how they end up panning out. I really like that you kind of doubled down with me and backed it up with Sproat's got the stuff, but if it's a flat fastball, that is not going to fly in AA. It's not going to fly in AAA. It sure as heck is not going to fly in the bigs. That's a pitching machine at that point, right? You talk about the different dimensions of how to make life tough for a hitter. There's velocity, but these guys are professionals too. They get paid too. That's one of my favorite quotes in sports, when you have someone who just bests somebody else, whether it's a heavy favorite or an upset. All these guys are professionals. They get paid too. So then you got to get some arm side ride on it. You got to change the grip. That's where those unsung heroes, the pitching coaches, they come in handy, where you make subtle little grip changes that it's not changing a guy's routine entirely, but it adds some extra spin rate, and all of a sudden the ball looks like a wiffle ball when it was just straight tunneling before there. So diamond in the rough. I dug deep in this one. We'll see if he turns into anything, but I think relative to the fact that he was a 13th round pick in 2024, we've got a leg to stand on here in terms of him outperforming expectations. That is RJ Gordon, right-handed pitcher, ETA this upcoming year, 2026. I just said 13th round pick in the 2024 MLB draft. Here is what a 13th round pick has done in pro baseball so far across numerous levels. 11-3, 3.26 earned run average, 147 Ks over 126 innings, and he's made it to as high as AA Birmingham with the Rumble Ponies. Awesome mascot. Low 80s kick change that has been giving players fits thus far. The fastball, it's not consistently rising above 95. It sits in that 92 to 94 range. So as is the case with most pitchers who don't have that flashy primary pitch, he's going to have to nibble. You can't leave that middle. It's going to look like a meatball to some of these professional baseball players. But he's got a slider and a curveball that have tight movement. With some of these guys, when they're developing their secondary, their tertiary pitch outside the changeup, your slider and your curveball, you don't want those to hang, and you don't want them to be loopy. Because if you have a loopy curveball, you're going to be able to pick up on it as a hitter a lot quicker. The tight spin, the tight movement, that all of a sudden makes the hitter's ultimatum wait just a tick longer, and that could be the difference between a strikeout looking and a rope double down the line. So RJ Gordon having that attribute where everything's tight, everything looks very similar tunneling-wise, that's really exciting for me, for a guy who, again, was a 13th round pick in the 2024 MLB draft. It's a fun one to follow, Jacob. I might be reaching a little bit, but, if you have someone who has an ERA sitting in the low threes, the walk rate isn't egregious, the command is good. Again, his bread and butter is going to be nibbling, but could be a fun story to follow.
Yeah, and again, 147 strikeouts doesn't happen by accident.
Nope.
I think that's something that, especially, can play, in this Mets system, and they've done such a great job, especially at the big league level, with being able to maximize guys' secondary pitches and also arm slots. Again, I think Sean Manaea is just such a wonderful example for them, where they got him from the Padres. He had this kind of high arm slot, teams were picking up on it, then got to that low three-quarter length, kind of motion. So, I mean, that's maybe something that you look at with Gordon, with these breaking pitches, with that fastball that isn't that high velocity, but maybe just a different even arm angle could get guys, where that kick change is still effective. The breaking pitches are coming at from a different arm slot. Same with the fastball, and that 93 looks like 98. That 93 looks like 97. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out. And again, AA, really, really rising and proving it in the middle to higher levels.
Excited to see what RJ Gordon does when he takes that next and final step in minor league baseball. How does he do against the AAA hitters? But you bring up a great point. You can't have almost 150 strikeouts over that span of time by accident. The stuff is effective. The deception has been the key for someone who's not exactly described as a flamethrower. And it's never too late to add a couple of MPHs. It's just a matter of doing it the right way. Strengths. I'm going to go more macro here and say the Mets have a lot of top-end talent. Out of the top 30 prospects in baseball, the Mets have 3 of them. We named them before. Nolan McLean about to reach graduation status. Benge and Jett Williams. Top 30. Do the math. They're supposed to have 1, right? So you have a lot of guys, whether it is just about big league ready, going to call them up, which we've seen in little spurts already with a couple of those names, or you've got really good trade pieces. The Mets are in a weird spot right now where they went cash cow mode when it came to somebody like Alonso. They got him from the Bronx. They have Lindor, but they also, for the majority of this year, led Major League Baseball in payroll. So if they want to go out and make more splashes in free agency, they're allowed to. They're going to be able to. We'll see what happens after 2026 with the idea of a salary floor, a hard salary cap that has a bit more of a penalty, because teams like the Dodgers and like the Mets are repeat offenders. That is probably a different video. But for strengths, they have the top-end talent. They have a couple of blue-chip guys that I think if they wanted to swing a deal and didn't want to have to play the payroll game in free agency, they could do that. Or maybe they turn it into a sign-and trade because they're able to. Weaknesses, I'm going to say high-end hit tools in general. We named a lot of pitchers, right? We named guys that are going to be able to fill out that rotation or be a strong mid-reliever option. The Mets' batting title guy, if you will, was Pete Alonso, and he hit 272. I know it's really tough when guys are throwing 100-plus with movement to hit around 300, and I know home runs, OPS, and stolen bases, they reign supreme right now. but 3 of the top 5 prospects in the Mets system are on the hill. They need more offensive answers, and we alluded to this with hopefully Jett Williams working out for him. Jacob, I don't know who's going to hit 6th for this team next year, or 7th, or 8th, or 9th, and give them consistent output. So if I had to go weaknesses, I would say consistent, not even consistent, but a plethora of guys who can contribute on offense that are going to be major league ready the next year or two.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Yeah, the top end talent is just scary, especially when you're looking at trade deadlines and winter meetings going on right now with the Mets. When you have kind of a plethora of starting pitching, very similar. We just talked about the Phillies, two teams in similar positions, looking maybe for have similar strengths in that regard with that pitching at their disposal to move. But the Mets even a little bit more, as you mentioned, with the guys ranked at MLB.com. And yeah, the weakness is I don't know, is Benge that guy? Can he figure it out on a call up, with that hit tool? I think he has it there. Saw some pop as well. You mentioned Jett Williams, who's that kind of, again, going back to a present Met, Jeff McNeil, that guy that
Yep.
can kind of do it all, that has that kind of great bat to ball skill and view of the zone. But is he a guy that can hit 300 in the majors? Is he a guy that can get on base and reset the lineup for them? So yeah, I think it's something to look at, and it might just be something where it's a free agent signing where you kind of have to recycle bringing guys in every year. It's going to be tough to sustain that when you don't have maybe a guy that can make his way through in the minors. But yeah, great job starting in the NL East.